This is your 420 Radio News for Friday, December 20th, 2013. I'm Russ Belville. Public softens on marijuana legalization from the Washington Post. Just 29% of Americans say they oppose legalization of small amounts of marijuana for personal use, down from 55% in a 2010 AP-CNBC poll. And fewer say legalization would lead to increased use of more serious drugs or harm the economy. The share in favor of legalization was about the same in 2010, while more people reported feeling neutral on the question this year. In 2012, ahead of referendums that made the sale of the drug legal in both Colorado and Washington state, the nation was closely divided on the question. 47% thought it should be legal and 53% said not. Since the referendums in Colorado and Washington passed, polls by the Pew Research Center and Gallup have found majority support for legalized marijuana. 37% said legalizing marijuana for personal use would actually improve the economy, a slight increase from 32% who felt that way in 2010. Fewer thought it would cause harm to the economy, 16% compared with 21% in 2010. Americans were more likely to see it as a deterrent to stronger drugs than 3 years ago. 17% thought it would disincline people from using more serious drugs, compared with 10% in 2010. About a third said it would lead people to try more serious drugs, but that's down from 39% in 2010. Just 1 in 5 Americans said they would use marijuana if the sale and possession of small amounts for personal use were made legal. This is how marijuana consumers want to buy their legal weed, from Huffington Post. Were they able to, most Americans would want to buy their legal weed at a pharmacy or at its own store. And they really want to, with 80% thinking that marijuana should be regulated like alcohol. That's according to a new survey from The Street, analyzing consumer opinions on legal marijuana sales. According to The Street's data, 69% of Americans think legal marijuana should be sold at a pharmacy, 60% think it should be sold at its own marijuana store, and 39% want marijuana sold at a liquor store. Only 17% think that marijuana should be sold at coffee shops, and even less, 13%, think it should be sold at the supermarket. Men and women were equally in favor of medical marijuana over recreational marijuana. But when it came to recreational, 33% of men were in favor and only 22% of women supported that. Men and women equally felt it should be regulated like alcohol and were in agreement on the age limits. There was a big difference between men and women on the sale and possession of small amounts being legal. 49% of men think a small stash should be legal, while only 36% of women felt that way. Appeals court, judge right to order the return of medical pot to Colorado Springs cancer patient, from the Colorado Springs Gazette. The Colorado Court of Appeals ruled Thursday that a 4th Judicial District judge was correct to order Colorado Springs police to return more than 60 pounds of pot to a man who was acquitted at trial of drug charges. At issue is a provision in the state constitution requiring that police properly care for any pot seized during medical marijuana investigations and that it be returned should the owner be acquitted of wrongdoing. Court of Appeals upheld the ruling in a 2-1 decision. Naperville OKs medical marijuana rules, from the Chicago Tribune. Medical marijuana dispensaries looking to open in Naperville will be allowed to do so in some retail areas and can have drive-through windows. The Naperville City Council approved regulations for the dispensaries and cultivation centers before the drug officially becomes legal for medical purposes on January 1. Dispensing facilities will be able to open in industrial areas without a hearing. They also will be allowed in some retail areas outside downtown, but a hearing will be needed. The city also has added a provision keeping the facilities at least 250 feet away from residential areas. Doomed legislation to loosen New Jersey's medical marijuana law advances, from NewJersey.com. Governor Chris Christie has vowed to veto it, but Democratic lawmakers today ignored him and advanced a measure that would expand the state's medical marijuana law so patients can go out of state for their pot. Under the bill, which passed the Assembly 50-23 with 7 abstentions, patients from other states would also be able to buy medical marijuana in New Jersey. The bill has not yet passed the state Senate. Lawmakers wrote the bill with the help of Megan and Brian Wilson of Scotch Plains, whose 2.5-year-old daughter Vivian suffers from a drug-resistant kind of epilepsy called Dravet syndrome. The Wilsons wanted to purchase a strain of marijuana from a Colorado grower, but are unable to under New Jersey law. Governor Christie, however, said he's not willing to expand the state's program any further. This has been your 420 Radio News for Friday, December 20th, 2013. I'm Russ Belville. When we come back, we go behind the headlines and take a look at the great St. Louis marijuana legalization debate and the opinions of people against legalization on that debate. You're listening to The Russ Belville Show on 420radio.org. We'll be right back. The law offices of Omar Figueroa would like to remind you to stand up for your rights. Please do not